Welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. Live for the next half hour, join us as we provide you with all the scores, news, and updates to everything Franklin County sports. And now, here's your host, Bobby C.
Hello and welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. It is our final show before Christmas of 2021. And with that said, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday this weekend with your family. We also want to let folks know that we give you a chance to be able to hear about the local sports that are happening with our 6 local high schools here in Franklin County. And by the way, we want to say thank you to our underwriters here today that include Franklin First Federal Credit Union, online, franklinfirst.org. Also, Manny's TV and Appliance, 2 locations locally, one on River Street in Greenfield, also on Route 9 in Hadley, and by Lisa Alber, our local audiologist, located at 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield. If you're having trouble hearing, it's alberhearing.com. All right, finally, we were able to get our final Western Mass selection from one of our sports from the fall. It finally came out this weekend. And a congratulations goes out to our locals for making all Western Mass field hockey. And let's read our selections here today. In Class B, these are first team all Western Mass. We have 2 from Frontier and 2 from Greenfield. We have Lila Roach from Frontier, Emily DeMeo from Frontier, Ainsley Flynn from Greenfield, and Tess Rancourt from Greenfield. Second team selections in Class B, both from Greenfield, are Maddie Kucheski and Lily Kacklemeyer. Class C, this is first team selections, all Western Mass, all from the Franklin County Tech School. Kendra Campbell, Hannah Gilbert, Lauren Ross, Lily Ross, Caitlin Trudeau. From Pioneer, we have Riley Fair and Kelly Baird. From Mohawk, we have Cordell Kendall. From Turner's Falls, we have Paige Schulda. Second team selections of Class C. From Mohawk, we have Stella Clark, Maya LaShure. From Pioneer, we have Laura Collar and Kelsey Sargent. From Turner's Falls, Brooke Thayer. And from the Franklin County Tech, Emma Thurston. These ladies all made all Western Mass. So congratulations goes out to them. Well, in basketball last week in girls, it was the Greenfield girls taking on Pioneer, and Pioneer gave Greenfield all they had. Final score was 43-34. Got to tell you, things were whirling around like a wind tunnel over there at GHS. But the one thing is that the girls basketball team was able to pull off the win. Must tell you, though, that Pioneer team was very scrappy in that game against Greenfield. And honestly, they really ended up winning Greenfield by going on a 9-0 run midway through the fourth quarter. That was what really gave them the win. If it wasn't for that 9-0 run, who knows where this game could have ended. Lily Kacklemeyer led all the scorers. She had 17 for Greenfield. Azamina Sesajanin, her and Tess Rancourt, well, they each had 10 apiece. And Coach John Hickey pretty much said that the bottom line is that our team has to be able to give 100% at all times, not just certain times during the game. And he feels that that's something that they need to address. Sophia Walker, she finished with 15 and 8 rebounds for Pioneer. Also, Haley Ring, well, she joined in with double figures. She ended up with 12 points. Well, on Wednesday night in boys hockey, it was Greenfield taking on East Hampton. Greenfield picked up a 4-2 win. The Green Wave was playing in its 3rd game in 5 days. And let me tell you, if you ask their coach, he'll tell you straight up, the team was wiped out. Now, despite their fatigue, they were able to manage a couple of power play goals that really helped them to give them that 4-2 win. Want to let you know that Sammy Knight ended up getting the first goal for Greenfield. So that was a way to sort of get them on the board. And then there was a power play goal by Kevin Bauman, which gave Greenfield their second goal. And then Shane Prusak, well, he had an empty netter, so that was able to give them a goal. And then Sammy Knight ended up with his second goal of the evening. So he ended up with 2 goals, Bauman with 1, and also the final one with Prusak to give Greenfield the 4-2 win. Well, in boys basketball on Wednesday night, it was Frontier taking on Smith Academy. You know, Smith Academy is playing some pretty good defense. And one thing that people need to realize is that they are a pretty good basketball team. And they took on a very good Frontier team that also plays pretty good defense, too. Dylan Martin, well, it was all about him. He had himself a huge night, ended up with 17 points just in the first quarter. Wow, what a career high for him, 27 points as they picked up the 65-55 win over Smith Academy. Well, in girls basketball, there was a game that went on Thursday, and it was between the girls from Frontier taking on Hopkins Academy. And they ended up winning by 20. Frontier with the 52-32 win. The Frontier girls basketball team has really turned out to be a very solid program so far this season. And let me tell you, one of the people that's been able to get it done for them consistently so far this season is Kylie LaFord. She ended up with 18 points in this one. Also, Haley Hutkowski ends up with 13, and Caitlin Mackin ended up with 8. They got some very good experienced players that are on this team that have been able to carry a load that is going to hopefully give them a chance to make some noise in the tournament later this winter. Well, the Franklin County Tech, they took on Mohawk girls. It was a good game up there at Mohawk, and I must say that it was sort of back and forth for a while, but then all of a sudden, the Franklin County Tech girls started to explode in the second half and picked up the victory. With that win, it was able to get them off to a pretty good start here this season. We'll tell you, though, that this team from Mohawk has a brand new coach. They have a different kind of a look, and they also are hoping to be able to change things up within their program of being able to get more younger girls to be able to come out and play so that they can keep this program flourishing. I must say that Maya LaShore was on fire. She plays great defense. She also plays great offense as well. Matter of fact, Maya LaShore ended up with 18 points in the loss for Mohawk. Now, Hannah Gilbert, she had a great game. She's played very well for the Franklin County Tech. She's been one of the shining stars for their girls team so far this season. She ended up with 15 points. And you know, Leah Chapman, she ended up coming off an injury. She ended up coming back, and she had a great first game where after she comes back from injury, she gets 10 points for her team. So once again, final score in this one was 41-28, Tech girls over Mohawk. Well, it was the Marhar girls knocking off the Greenfield girls. The Greenfield girls basketball team is not what we have seen the past 6 or 7 years. Big changes. Think about it. You lost big-time players. You also lost Katie Hazelton to graduation last year. Now think about this. When you lose really good players, there are times where you have to start to rebuild. And this is exactly what's happening with Coach Hickey right now at Greenfield. Well, I will say that this Marhar team, what really helped them and gave them the win was going 15 of 18 from the free throw line. That's right. Out of their 51 points, 15 of those were free throws. And that was a big stat to give them the win. Now, I want you to know that there are a couple of players that are not playing because of certain things that happened throughout the year for Greenfield that could have helped Greenfield this season. One of the big losses that they have is Amber Bergeron. Amber has decided to go to school at Northfield Mount Herman. Now, a couple of years ago, they had a young player. She would have been a senior this year, and that is the loss of Raquel Provost. So now, Provost and Bergeron are now playing at Northfield Mount Herman. Also, one of the Sessajanin girls, Alina, she ended up having an ACL injury, and she hasn't been able to come back to play. So think about the players that really could have added to what Greenfield already has that they're not able to utilize because of either the injury or loss to another school. But I want to say that in that Greenfield game, Lily Kackelmeyer for Greenfield, she ended up with 21 points. And Azamina Sesajanin had 19. So between those girls, they ended up with 40 of the 45 points for Greenfield. So think about this. If you are a team and you can shut down either Sesajanin or Kackelmeyer, Greenfield's going to be in a lot of trouble because they just don't have a lot of pure scorers. In wrestling, it was Minnechaug knocking off the Franklin County Tech. They opened up their meet in boys wrestling last Wednesday. And with that said, there were a few folks that did win for them. One is John Santiago. He ended up winning at 106 pounds in that class. And also Andrew Esposito. He ended up winning. He ended up winning in the 285 weight class. So congratulations to both those guys, winners in their wrestling matches. Well, back on Friday, it was the Pioneer boys taking on the Marhar boys. And let me tell you something. This team from Pioneer, they are legit. And we want you to know that they have two different basketball teams. And people are like, what? What are you talking about? Two different basketball teams. Let me share. We have the veterans. These are the veteran crew that play. And then we got a group of really, really talented freshmen that are all playing varsity. And these kids, all in 8th grade, played all against JV players that young. And then they had the opportunity to do it in 7th grade as well. So think about this. You're playing against tough competition, and you're a 7th grader playing against kids that are in 9th, 10th, and some kids even in 11th grade. And you did it in your 8th grade year too. And then you're now freshmen. After playing together, this is your 3rd year playing together in high school sports. Look at what you've been able to gain by playing good competition. So now you have this older group that doesn't have to worry about a problem if there's fatigue or foul trouble because of these kids that are going to be able to fill spots. And that's exactly what this group of kids have done. Now think about this. They put up 82 points against Marhar. Marhar only scored 35. So you talk about good defense and taking that defense and turning it into offense. There's two teams that are doing that right now in this area, and that is Pioneer and Hopkins Academy. And let me tell you, both those games this year are going to be unbelievable. And I can't wait to be able to enjoy both those games. Pioneer came out flying on both ends of the court. They were knocking down shots. They were also grabbing all kinds of rebounds and being able to smother on the defensive end. Matter of fact, after the first quarter, they already had 22 points scored, and they were up 22-9 after the first quarter. Then they were up 41-15 at halftime. Marhar was never able to get into this one. Matter of fact, Jared Hubbard made it very clear saying, hey, Marhar's got a pretty good team. They brought a lot of players back, but we just came prepared, ready to play. And that's exactly what this team did. And to hold a team to 35 points like Marhar, that's a good day's work for Pioneer. Jaden Fox and Sean Allen, well, they ended up having double figures. How about this? 11 points. Also, we want to let you know that Jared Hubbard and Ethan Mothy each had 9. Nope. You know what the best part was? Is that there was a guy who's a 9th grader, coach's son, Braden Thayer. He ended up with 15 for his team over there in Pioneer. So congratulations to them. They are a powerhouse this season. Well, Frontier took on Greenfield. And let me tell you something. I want to talk about a really sloppy game. It's exactly what you got out of Greenfield. They really couldn't find their own way for most of the game. But in the end, they only lost by 11. Why? Because there were certain spurts where they were able to get back into it, because that's when Frontier started to play some sloppy basketball. And in the end, they ended up pulling off the victory, Frontier did, and they got themselves that home win that they needed against Greenfield. Let's talk about who the leading scorer was. Well, Dylan Martin, we talked about his career high 27 earlier in the week. Well, he ended up with 21 on Friday against Greenfield. Ian Spearance, he ended up with 9. Tyler Dubriel and Patrick Boyden each had 8 for Frontier. John Breer, what a great day for the freshman. He ended up with 17 points. Senior David Carey with 12. Also Brandon Driscoll, he ended up with 6 points in the loss. Once again, Greenfield did not play well in this one, and they got it down to 7. But as soon as they got it down to 7, Dylan Martin ended up hitting a 3-pointer, and that ended up giving his team that 10-point lead, and then they went on to win by 11. Athol knocked off the Franklin County Tech team, but I'll tell you, there is a kid on this Franklin County Tech team who's been able to get it done, and he's had a great year so far this year for his team, and we're going to be able to enjoy that game. That'll be tomorrow as the Pioneer boys will be traveling to the Franklin County Tech to take on Ty Sadowski and his team. Ty scored 25 points in that loss to Athol, and Gabe Tomasi ended up with 7 points in the loss. But I will tell you this, that it's going to be a very tough time for the Franklin County Tech to be able to compete with Pioneer. But we'll have that game for you. This will be a tomorrow game, which will be on a Wednesday. It's right before Christmas here, folks. It'll be a 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off on Bear Country 95.3. Jeff Terrell and I will have the game. Well, in girls basketball last week, it was Southwick with a win over Turners, 49-32. Lily Spira, she ended up with 11 points for the Thunder. Also, we want to let folks know that Southwick is one of the better teams we have in the area. Sorry about that. Okay. Also, we want to let you know that Emily Young ended up with 9 points for Turner's Falls, and Taylor Green ended up with 6 for the Thunder. You know, swimming. I want to talk a little bit about swimming this year, and I think it's very important for people to hear us out, that we are now being able to have our Turner's team joined by Frontier players. That is awesome, because before it was just the Turner's kids that were able to represent their swim team. Well, now they have kids from Frontier who have joined the co-op program. Let's run down how it went for them in swimming. It ended up being a game against Holyoke, and the final of the girls on the girls' side was 138-24. Leah Gump, she ended up 3rd place in the individual medley for the 200, and also Ella Gudabani ended up 3rd place in the 50 freestyle. In the boys' side, Desmond Wallace, he took 1st place in the 100 free. He also did well in the 100 backstroke, making it number 1 for Turners. But that was a close match that came up just a little short as Turners got beat by Holyoke on the boys' side, 28-19. Matt Sibley ended up getting 2nd place in the 100 breaststroke for Turners in the loss. Well, on Saturday, it was a very good Minnechaug hockey team taking on Greenfield. Greenfield has played against a couple of big powerhouses early. They took on Westfield, ended up losing a close one, 3-2, and now they take on a really good Minnechaug hockey team. Trevor Kucheski was the guy who got the scoring going for Greenfield, putting them up 1-0, but that was it. And unfortunately, Minnechaug put 5 in the net against Josh Bordeaux. Bordeaux still had a great day, though. 25 saves for that kid. Once again, the final score was Minnechaug 5, Greenfield 1. I can tell you that tomorrow there will be a game for the GHS hockey team. They will take on Drury. Yep, they have a game against Drury. That'll be at 7 o'clock. Well, we're down to our final day of what went on with sports for this week here on the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, and I am Bobby C. And that was a game that was played last night. Pioneer took on Smith Academy. The Pioneer boys basketball team found out on the road what it's like to play in a very small gym with a very good crowd. This is what Smith Academy does. They're a very tight community down there. And I'll tell you, Pioneer found out that there are some good defensive teams around here. But Pioneer wanted to make sure that they knew that they play defense as well. Final score was 50-29. That's right. Pioneer, after holding Marhar to 35, they hold Smith Academy to 29 points. Now, coming into the environment with 6 freshmen, 5 of those that are really solid players that have played a lot together, that can be a little bit intimidating for them to see how hostile this environment was. And Coach there said, hey, we lived up to the task. That's what we do. We end up taking the task at hand, and that's exactly what this team was able to do as Pioneer picked up the win, and Jalen McGraw ended up being the only one with double figures for Pioneer. He ended up with 13 points. Sean Allen, he had 9, and Braden Fair ended up with 8 for Pioneer in the win. Well, Drury, a very solid program, took on Frontier, and Frontier found out what it was like to take on one of the powerhouses in league play, and that is Drury. Now, Drury picked up the 74-49 win. That was a game that was played over in Drury. Frontier back in action on Thursday. They're going to be back on the road again as they take on Granby, and that'll be an independent game that they will have before the Christmas break. Mount Greylock knocked off the Franklin County Tech School 68-28. Not even a contest right there, a total blowout right there by the Mounties as they picked up the win in Williamstown. They were up 36-13 at halftime, and then they pulled away with the easy win. Ty Sadowski ended up with 13 points for the Franklin County Tech. Robert Belleville, well, he ended up with 6 in the loss for the Tech. And Michael Chanel ended up with 5 for the Tech in scoring. Lennox, after being down, came back and beat the Greenfield Green Wave 56-53. That's right, heading into the final 8 minutes, Greenfield had a nice lead, but they gave it up. And unfortunately, it ruined a beautiful day for David Carey. David Carey ended up with 32 points in the loss, and they end up getting beat by 3 after being up going into the final quarter. Sam Gibson and John Breer, well, they had 6 points apiece for Greenfield. It was definitely all about David Carey in the offense in this one. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it ended up being a Greenfield loss. So Greenfield's not off to a very good start right now. They're looking a little bit tough. Pioneer's off to a great start. Hopkins boys are off to a great start. You look at some of the other teams, you got Frontier sort of balanced at about 500. And then you got teams that are going to struggle. And those are your teams like your Marhars, your Athols. Those teams are going to struggle. Smith Academy is probably going to end up being a 500 team themselves. Maybe just good enough to be able to make tournament. But they're going to struggle against some of the better teams because they don't have a lot of offense. They have been able to shut people down defensively, but they got to find ways to take some of those defensive opportunities and turn them into offense, like teams like Pioneer and Hopkins Academy do. On the girls' side, Frontier girls, solid program this year. They could be the ones that could be making a lot of noise in the tournament. So things are looking good for the girls down there. Franklin County Tech girls, well, they got some work to do. They have things that they can be able to work on to improve their program. Of course, the Marhar girls, same thing. They need things that they need to work on. You know, they're under a brand new coach this year as they lost their veteran coach, Larry Fisher. He retired. Great coach. Coach Hickey, well, you know, he's got a lot of players that are down and out. And one of the big losses was the loss to Amber Bergeron to go to Northfield Mount Herman, and also the loss of Alina Sesajanin due to an injury. So there's things that they're going to have to do to start being able to regroup in Greenfield as well. Now, what about the Pioneer girls team? Well, they're in a rebuilding year as well, but this is the one year where I think that this is what they're going to need. And next year, I think you're going to see Pioneer girls back in the mix. Mohawk girls, they're under a brand new coach with Coach Grover, and they're just sort of starting to get things going as well. So the bottom line is that if you really think about what is going on, we have teams that need some work. We have teams that are trying to rebuild, And then we have teams that have some really good veteran leadership that are going to be able to do very well come tournament time, like our locals in Hopkins Academy and Pioneer. And the best part is they play each other twice during the regular season. You know, when you think about wrestling, you think about the Franklin County Tech back years ago. They had the Brunels. They had guys that were able to get it done. They had Cody Wood. They had some tough dudes, okay? And now they're a little undermanned. And I don't know if you know this or not, but if you can't fill a slot in a weight class, you automatically lose it to a forfeit. So how you have to look at it is how many players do you have that end up being able to participate, and how many win and how many lose. Because you can't really do much about it if you don't have enough folks to fill weight classes because of numbers. And that's why when you see some of these weird numbers in swimming, it's the same thing. Think about it. If you can't fill one of the swimming competitions that are there because there's nobody to swim, you lose all that points to those schools. And our final game that we have here of the week, we want to let you know that it was an opportunity for Greenfield to be able to pick up a huge road win against Lenox. When they were leading, they had an opportunity to be able to walk away with a win, and they came up short as the Millionaires, that is their name, the Lenox Millionaires, picked up a key win, 56-53 over the Green Wave, and ruined the night from David Carey. David Carey ended up with 32 points for Greenfield in this loss, and that really hurts, especially when you had a lead and had an opportunity to be able to pull off a win on the road in a game that you needed that win. A couple of guys that also contributed were Sam Gibson and also John Breer. They ended up with 6 points apiece for the Green Wave, but in the end, Greenfield gets beat on the road against Lenox 56-53. Well, we're winding down our show. Can't believe that Christmas is going to be here this weekend. We will try to be able to put a show together for you for next week. We got to just see if we have enough material. It's sort of those hit or misses on how many games are going to be played this week, on whether we have enough to be able to do a show next Tuesday. But we'll keep you updated. We'll make sure that you look for us on the Facebook page and also, of course, our YouTube page as well here at Greenfield Community Television. On behalf of my producer, John Meisner, and Philippe Simone, these two guys are amazing. I want to wish them and their families a happy holiday season. I want to say thank you to our viewers for tuning in all year long to be able to keep this show going. Can't believe that we've already ridden this show now for 5 years. This is year number 5 of this show. And I remember when I first walked in the door and I told Philippe Simone that I would like to do a sports show. And he said, Bobby C., we will get you on the air. And with the hard work of what he was able to do to be able to get this thing going for me, really shows the commitment that he's made as an employee to Greenfield Community Television. I really do admire the hard work that he puts in and the care that he cares about the product that goes on over the airwaves. And it just means a lot to me to know that whether it's their radio station here or their TV production work, they take pride. So just remember about community access television. And remember about the importance it is to be able to support your local community. And this is a way to support local community programs. And what we do is we do this for the kids. This is truly 100% for the local kids of Franklin County. I want to say thank you to our underwriters. Thank you to our friends over at Franklin First Federal Credit Union at franklinfirst.org. Manny's TV and Appliance, located on River Street in Greenfield, Route 9 in Hadley, and by Lisa Albert of Albert Hearing Services, located at 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield, online, alberthearing.com. So, for John Meisner, for Philippe Simone, and from me, Bobby C., happy holidays, everyone. And remember, support your local athletes.